Godless voice here. I've talked about cancer self, how the 12-step program is a failure. Let's talk about what could work if you want to get off of drugs. There is this belief that addiction is a disease, and they're right and they're wrong. I think this is something that's been perpetuated through the "you're powerless over your addiction" cult that has ruled the world of sobriety. You have what I like to call the cancer self. It is for lack of a better word, it is your personal insanity. I know that word's been thrown around in the system before, but if it works, it works. Personal insanity. This is a version of yourself that is inspired to do something that you have already personally falsified. You have, at this point, you wouldn't be watching this video if you weren't interested in what I did to quit doing drugs, and if you weren't also interested in also quitting doing drugs, or if you may be watching it just out of curiosity. If you know somebody, show it to them. The cancer self, your personal insanity. It is you that you have falsified. You have falsified this version of you, yet it still lingers. It's still in the back of your mind. I want to go smoke some dope. I want to go shoot some shit. Whatever. It lingers back there, and the objective is to identify and control it. Best way I've decided to do that is to segregate this portion of my thinking off as an alternate version of me that is insane, because it is feeding into this lifestyle and this behavior that I've already decided was inappropriate and counterproductive. So, identify this. Now, some people might think this is bad for your self-esteem. Here's the reality of it. Get over your sensitivities. Everybody goes through some form of insanity at some point. Somebody goes through some mental dilemma, some stress, and for a brief period of time, or for a prolonged period of time, they are insane. They are aggravated, they are stressed out, they are irritated, they are depressed. These are dysfunctions in the brain. And everybody goes through them. It's just a part of life. So, sensitivity towards, I don't want to feel like I'm insane, get over it. You're going to be insane at some point in your life. Everybody is. The most fortunate ones are briefly insane. So, identify this person, this insanity, and then segregate it, and then falsify it. Anything related to this, like, here's an unfortunate thing, which I haven't shared with very many people. Being a tattoo artist is one of my connections to drug use. It didn't start that way, but that's how it turned out, because I started doing drugs, at least the one I tried, which was methamphetamines, ice, that dirty white girl. I started doing that, and I realized I could work long hours. I mean, I could work for days on this shit. So, it became closely related to me being a tattoo artist. And this is why I don't like tattooing very much anymore, aside from hating people. I don't hate people, I hate stupid people. I hate stupid people, and they just seem to be more abundant in the tattoo industry. So, I distance myself from it. I really don't care to do many tattoos anymore, although I've been convinced to do them from time to time, but the truth of the matter is, it's just really connected to my drug use. And unless I'm feeling up to it, I don't bother with it. I don't want to bother with it. Which is a shame, because I was a damn good tattoo artist. But that goes into, what do you do to stop? Just stop. Stop doing the drug. Throw it away. Throw away the paraphernalia. Now, you might say, well, it's very hard because I still want to use it. I still want to use it. Okay, here's a reality check here. The worst addiction, which is heroin. Never tried it, but I've known a few people that have. But the addiction, the physical addiction of heroin, which has the worst of them, is 2 weeks. That's it. That's all. 2 weeks, and you can get off of heroin physically. That means whatever's left, all up here. All in your brain. You can actually think your way through it. That's what I did. So if you can go 2 weeks off of anything, you are physically clear of any addiction. You just now have to work on the mental part. Now, the mental part is actually a little difficult for some. For me, you can imagine that after about 2 or 3 years of doing meth, I had built a schedule around being awake for days at a time. I had built a life and an activity and a cycle around being awake for days and days. I'd have 72-hour days, sometimes longer. And so when I quit, even though getting over the physical part was easy, getting over the lifestyle change was the difficult part. The lifestyle change was dramatic because I no longer had as much time as I used to. Part of the reason why I'm an insomniac now, well, I was always had insomnia, but it's a little more severe now because I constantly feel like I'm missing something because I'm sleeping. And whenever I go to sleep, I wake up in about 2 hours and I get active again. And I'll go take another nap. And then a few hours later, I'll wake up again, get active again. Suffice to say, I don't dream very much anymore. Another thing that you have to do, you get past the physical addiction. That's the easy part. That is the absolute easiest part. Get past the physical addiction. It's going to be painful as hell. And to be perfectly honest, I very seriously would consider puttering off and not just stopping cold turkey. You do it quickly, though. Don't bullshit yourself around it. You want to be able to taper off the drugs within about a week. Give it about a week. Give you a week amount of time and taper off of it. Just quitting cold turkey is painful. We'll just put it that way. Quitting cold turkey is painful. But if you quit slowly and you force yourself to quit within a week's period of time, you're not going to have a lot of the physical withdrawals that you're going to experience from getting off of the drugs. They'll lessen. The cramps won't be so severe. The jitters. For me, I must admit, some of it was pretty easy because I could just sleep it right off. I go to sleep for 24 hours and I've cleared halfway through my addiction already because meth takes about 3 or 4 days to get off of physically. It's a lifestyle change that you got to do next. You need to distance yourself from your drug relations. If they want to come with you, great. But if not, it's time to rethink your friends. It's unfortunate, but it's true. One of the things you're going to find out once you quit, one of the things that's going to keep threatening to draw you back in, it isn't going to be stress. It could be. It depends on what your addiction was. It might be stress, but it's not going to be as dangerous. The most dangerous thing, believe it or not, is boredom. Boredom is what's going to get you in there quickest. You get bored too easily. You had a series of activities and behaviors and things like that you did and you related to your drugs. When you stop doing all those, you have a lot of free time. I mean, even me, whenever I started sleeping more, Whenever I woke up, I had to pick out a whole new life to do. And I started writing. Writing ended up becoming a hobby. And then went from hobby to activity and took it a little more seriously, went to school for it. And then life happened. But with life happening and me moving in with my brother because of a series of deaths that are continuing even today. I think we're up to number 7 now in the past year. But whenever I moved in, I got a job. I ate up free time. That job wears me out. So I end up going to sleep right after that job. I have a book I'm supposed to be editing right now, and I just can't seem to find the time to do it. Let me rephrase that. I can find the time. I don't have the energy to do it. That's why I'm doing these now, is because they're easier to do than trying to write out an entire script. I'll just say what I need to say and be done with it. So you need to find a hobby. You need to find something to preoccupy your time to replace it. Habits. Habits take about 28 days, about a month to form. Like if you want to force yourself into a habit, you need to repetitiously engage in whatever that habit is for 28 days. If you can do it for 28 days, you can actually create healthy habits, healthy addictions. And constantly falsify your cancer self. Your cancer self is always going to find out a new way to talk you into something. Again, because it is just you. And ultimately, it is you. It's not some alternate personality. But for the sake of your sanity and for the sake of your health and welfare and your life, you need to identify this as an insanity, as another personality, another persona. This is another you. This is alternate you. Constantly falsify that bastard. They will never, ever have anything good to say, and they will never have anything good to do. You blindly falsify them because the reason you're doing this is in your moment of clarity, your moment of sanity. You did falsify it. You identified it as being negative. You went through the steps of figuring out how it's negative, what it's attached to, and then discarded all that. Over time, and you can see this happen in like anti-vaccine nonsense. Over time, it could be that you forget why you falsified the bastard. And suddenly you're wondering if maybe you missed something and maybe you should listen. No, just get rid of it. Whenever you don't have a problem for so long, you seem to forget why you're being so stubborn about being against it. And like vaccines, we have gone without disease and, mass death for so long from various diseases that people have forgotten how bad it used to be. They don't remember that, back in the day, we were slayed constantly by polio. So all these vaccines start to get a bad rep because they have side effects sometimes and not even always proven. Somebody running their mouth off with bullshit. People forget. Well, that's what's going to possibly happen. So you need to be mindful of that. There could come a point where you forget why you stopped. And you only remember the good times because we tend to try to fade out the trauma. Not all of us are successful, but the mind naturally stays away from trauma if it can. You may have a dysfunction about that and not able to stay away from the trauma, but I have years of my life I've completely forgotten because they were traumatic. So, over time, you will eventually try to draw away from whatever trauma may have occurred from you being on these drugs. You need to constantly remind yourself. Basically, wake up every morning and decide I'm sober. Really, that's it. Quit. Falsify your cancer self. Get a hobby. And distance yourself from anything that was connected. 4 steps. A lot better than 12. I'm sure there's other places that have other steps. I'll put a link down in the box. There is an atheist version of an AA program called S.O.S. They're not everywhere, but they are in some places. Like here in Dallas, there's one. I was only able to go to one meeting because I don't have a vehicle available, or at the time I didn't have a vehicle available to me. So I went to one meeting. That's it. Otherwise, I've pretty much done all this on my own and amid a house full of drug users. So I'll put the links on that below, plus links to everything related to what I've talked about. And keep fighting.